Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are talking about all of the books that I read in September. So we'll go through some stats first. I read 13 books this month, or last month because it's in October now. I read 13 books in September, and 6 of those were strictly fantasy. One of those was a romance, one was a historical fantasy fiction type book, one was a thriller mystery, and then 4 were graphic novels slash manga. I picked 7 books for my September TBR, and I did in fact read every single one. I finished my TBR finally. I think this is only my second time ever since starting the TBR jar thing that I have finished a full monthly TBR, but I read all 7 of the books that I picked on my September TBR, which normally I pick 6, so I even picked an extra one, and I still read all 7. So I'm gonna pat myself on the back, give myself a round of applause. I'm proud of myself for that. So that is all of the stats. I did not DNF any books in September, and it was a pretty good reading month. So here's all the books that I read this month. The other ones are not here because I either listened to them or borrowed them from the library and had to return them before I could film this video. So that is where those are. So don't mind my semi-wet hair still. I washed it, and my hair takes forever to dry because it's really thick. So don't mind that. The first book I read was City of Heavenly Fire. This is the, oh, I actually have it. I just got it from, I finally have all of them from Goodwill. It is City of Heavenly Fire. This is the last book in the Mortal Instrument series by Cassandra Clare, and I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. That is basically around what I was giving most of these. Oh, I don't have my ring on. Pardon the interruption. Forgot that I didn't have my wedding ring on, so had to quickly put that on. But anyway, follows their shadow hunters. They're descendants of angels that go around hunting demons to protect the mortals. There's also vampires and werewolves and all of that good stuff. There's a war going on between the demons and the shadow hunters, and some shadow hunters are on either side, and it's just, it was a very good series. I enjoyed this last one, so that was a 4-star read. The next book that I read was Assistant to the Villain. I really enjoyed this one too. I gave it 4 stars also. This one was really fun. It follows a girl who is having kind of a rough time at life. She is the main provider for her family of her sister and her dad. Her brother has passed away, and her mom kind of left after the brother passed away. But she's having a hard time keeping a job. So she ends up running into the villain, and he offers her a job as his assistant. And she is just working as his assistant, and they kind of develop a romance between the two. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun little fantasy. I'm excited to read the second one, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. My favorite character was Kingsley the Frog. He was so cute. He holds up little signs to talk. You can see there's like a little picture of him up here in the corner, and he just holds up little signs with like 1-word phrases on them to communicate. And he wears a crown. He's very cute. He was my favorite character. And then I read Lovely War. I gave this one 5 stars. I absolutely adored this one. I cried multiple times reading this book. It was so heartfelt and good. It's a World War II story, but it's told from the Greek gods and goddesses point of view, which I thought was really fun. I've never read a historical book from that kind of point of view. Aphrodite is the main storyteller of this book, and she is telling a story of her two greatest loves that she has ever done as the goddess of love. And she is telling it as if she's like actually telling a story to people. It's not just like following the story. It follows two different love stories, and both were super heartfelt, and I could feel the love and pain in each story, and just the way that it was told was beautiful. I would highly recommend this one. I adored it. 5 stars. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say, but you should read it. And then I read a book on my Kindle, which was The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. This book was so cute. I had seen it all over TikTok, so of course I had to buy it. And of course, pumpkin spice is my favorite flavor. I love all things pumpkin. The fall time is my favorite for that reason. And so when I saw that there was a book called The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I knew I immediately had to pick it up. And luckily it was only like $2 or $3 on the Kindle. So I bought it on the Kindle, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It follows a girl who inherits a coffee shop from her aunt in a small town, and she leaves her life in the city to run this cafe called the Pumpkin Spice Cafe in this super small town, and some things start happening. Someone is trying to scare her away from being the owner of this cafe, and so her and the local farmer, sorry if you hear my dog coming in here, tag team to try to figure out who is trying to sabotage her being the owner of this cafe. And of course a romance happens between the two, because it couldn't not, you know. But it was very cute. Right after I finished it, I immediately went and bought the Cinnamon Bun Cafe, which is the second one in the series. It was also like $2, $3. I haven't read it yet, but I'm hoping to get to it in October. And then I read the first Lore Olympus. I don't have it with me because I already had to return it to the library because someone had a hold on it. But I'll show you the second one because we'll talk about this one in a little bit, but just as a placeholder. And now my dog's brought a toy in here, so sorry. But I gave the first Lore Olympus 3 stars. I have been wanting to read this graphic novel series for a while now, ever since I saw it at Target, because I love Greek mythology things and I've been really into graphic novels. So I wanted to give it a try, but there's so many of them and I didn't want to buy them just because I wasn't sure if I was going to like them, and they're never at the library. If they are there, it's just like the 4th one, but not the first one. Luna, can you go out there and play? When I saw that they had the first one, they actually had the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd all at the library at the same time, so I grabbed all 3 of them. And then the next time I went to the library, they had the 4th and 5th one, maybe the 6th one too, I don't remember. So I have a stack of them to follow or to read, but it is basically, it follows Persephone, and the other Greek gods and goddesses are in it. It's fun, it's cute, 3 stars. And then I read another graphic novel, technically a manga. I read volume 2 of the Spy Family series. I also gave that one 3 stars. That is typically what I give graphic novels. There's just not much more, like you can't get into as much depth as you can with other books, but I still enjoy them. So I give them 3 stars, middle of the line. Yeah. Then I started a reread of Harry Potter. I read The Sorcerer's Stone, or The Philosopher's Stone if you're from another country. I'm not going to say much about this because first off, it was a reread. This is my second reread of it. So I've seen the movies dozens and dozens of times. Hundreds of times maybe. I can quote the movies like no other. But this is only my second time rereading the series, and I love them. They will always be 5 stars in my mind, every single one of them. So I'm not going to talk too much about them. Everyone knows what Harry Potter is about for the most part. I definitely enjoyed the rereading. I have been rereading them via audiobook, which is my first time doing audiobook, and I'm liking it, so I will probably continue the rest of them audiobook as well. I read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's very cozy fantasy. This is my second cozy fantasy book that I've read. And I thoroughly enjoy it. It's fun being in a fantasy world without having the super high stakes that most fantasy books have, which, don't get me wrong, I love a good high stakes fantasy, but there's just something special about having a book that's fantasy, but you don't have to worry about every character dying. It follows a girl who is in the middle of researching to write an encyclopedia of fairies. And she is in this small town researching her very last group of fairy that she needs for this book. And that's basically the whole premise of it. I'm excited to read the second one. I gave this one 3.75 stars. I feel like it almost would have hit harder if I read it in like December or January, because it's very winter vibes. I've heard the second one is a lot more fall vibes, so I'm hoping to get to that one sometime this fall. But this one takes place in a very snowy atmosphere, so keep that in mind if you are wanting to pick it up. Then I read the second Lore Olympus graphic novel. Again, I gave this one 3 stars as well, just like the first one. It just continued the story following Persephone. She is now going to be starting to internship in Hades' realm in the underworld. So it was cute. I'm enjoying the graphic novels, but they're not my favorite graphic novels I've ever read. And then I read Do Not Disturb by Frida McFadden. This was my second Frida McFadden book. If you watched my last month's wrap up, you saw that I read my first ever Frida McFadden book, and I gave that one 5 stars. This one I gave 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed it. I have found with at least the 2 books that I've read from her, the ends I'm always surprised about. Like, I have a hard time guessing the plot twist that she comes up with. I like going into a mystery thriller thinking one thing's gonna happen and then something completely different happens. So I liked it a lot. And then the next book that I read was the first Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. I gave this one 5 stars. I went in very skeptical about if I was gonna like it or not, because I've seen so many mixed thoughts about this series specifically. I know this is a lot of people's least favorite Sarah J Maas book series. I went in with low expectations, and maybe that helped, but I enjoyed it. I cried, which I was not expecting to cry reading the first one, because usually crazy shit doesn't happen until, you know, a couple books into a series, but something happened in this book and I was sobbing. I am filming a whole video of me reading the 3 Crescent City books that are out already, so you will see me crying in that video, because I definitely was crying while reading this. All of the other fantasy books that I've read have all been like normal fantasy books, and when I say normal, I mean castles and sword fighting and dragons and, you know, dresses and no modern day technology. This one, however, is an urban fantasy, so it takes place, there's skyscrapers, there's phones, there's guns, there's computers, there's TVs, there's FaceTime, and just like all the things. So that was really fun and interesting and new to me, to read a book set in modern day but was still very fantasy, which was so fun. And this one also has like a mystery element to it. Hunt is a fallen angel who is part of the like military kind of And Bryce gets recruited to work with him to solve a murder mystery. And it was just so fun having a fantasy book with the mystery element. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I will be reading the second one this month. So hopefully I like the second one as much as I enjoyed this one. We shall see. I read the third Lore Olympus. These ones are nice because I could read this whole thing in one day, which it looks like a decent sized book, but it's all pictures, not very much words, so you can read it all within a couple hours. So I finished Crescent City on the 29th, so I still had one whole day left where I could read, so I read Lore Olympus. I knew I'd be able to finish it all in one sitting in one day, so I read it on the last day of the month. Gave this one 3 stars as well. Nothing incredible, just continuing the story, but I'm still excited to read the rest of the series. And then the very last book that I read this month was another Harry Potter reread, and it was Chamber of Secrets. Again, 5 stars. They will always be 5 stars in my heart. I love these books and the movies. I am reading them and then watching the movie. So I read the first one, watched the first movie, read the second one, watched the second movie, and then I'll be starting the third one here shortly. So I am definitely enjoying my little reread, and it's just the perfect time of year when fall and winter come. It's just the perfect time to read them for the first time if you've never read them, or reread them if you've already have read them. These are all the books that I read this month. There's a lot of them, but I had a really good reading month. Like I said, I finished every single book that was on my TBR for September, so I feel very accomplished. We'll see how October is so far. I have not read a single one of my TBR, but I've started one, so, but it's only the 8th, so we've still got the whole month ahead of us. But I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see ya in my next video. Bye!